So I'm really looking forward t- to doing this because it's something I've just started recently, and doing these digital co-working sessions I think is a really nice idea to get founders online to really connect, and it's a nice way of documenting the process, sharing pretty transparently how I work on things, my process for the different projects I'm undergoing, the way I think about building a business, and also helping me reflect as well real time on the processes and the systems I'm building, so I can speak through them so you guys can understand them, follow through them, learn from them, and also give me feedback as well. That's why I love the fact that it's live. It's super helpful and insightful. And today there's so many things I want to talk about. I've got a lot of topics that are on my mind right now. I've just come into the office space right now. So this is my office in Copenhagen, which is in the Copenhagen School of Entrepreneurship building. They've got a good program that helps you quite easily get an office space if you're an early stage startup in Denmark. And I've just got a location here in a shared office building, and I'm just using a meeting room right now, which I've booked for a couple hours to really dive in. And the main project I want to finish today is the my pitch deck, which I've been working on for some time. I'm just going to write that in the chat quickly. Today's project, pitch deck. And I've been going back and forth. I don't want it to be perfect because it's my first proper pitch deck. I've not needed one up until this point, even though we've had clients, even though we've had an MVP, and we've gone live with product and programs, and we've delivered and so forth. We've been bootstrapping, and we don't need any investments or anything like that. But it is still, I think, really handy to have a pitch deck, and we've had some partners and collaborators who've been asking for it. So now we're putting it together, making sure it's aligned with our vision, making sure it's aligned with our latest branding and direction, so that we can communicate our idea all in one place and make it quite nice and digestible. So that's why I'm putting some emphasis on it. That's why I'm putting some emphasis on it, and part of that as well, which isn't directly in the pitch deck, but I do want to create a visual for our offer stack, which we haven't done yet. So we've got different notes on our offer stack, but I think it's really nice to just have a clear breakdown, whether it's like an offer stack pyramid where you've got on the bottom line, you've got the lower ticket offer. So whatever gets them in the door, if budget is maybe tight, then you have this offer that anyone can really afford and get on deck. If they see the value and they align with your mission and vision and they want to be a part of it, then they have something they can feasibly buy, even though budget might be tight. And then you've got, for example, your core offer, which is, I've just texted the pitch deck thing in the chat just for people who hop on so they know. And then you've got your core offer, which in our case is the Founder Reset, which is our 3-month program. And it's an in-depth walkthrough, basically our philosophy and helping you implement these new habits, these new exercises, essentially recreating a new lifestyle for yourself, which allows you to build your business more sustainably with your fitness at the forefront. So that's really how we do things and what we prioritize. And I'll go into that in more detail while I go through my pitch deck as well. But that would be our core offer. So that's where we invite people. That's the focus for the sales calls. That's really the thing where we believe we spend most of our time on, because we want to invite most people into this section where the real transformation happens and where we want to really create a lasting impact. And then the lower ticket is essentially us taking as much value from that as possible, but making it more accessible for people who don't have the budget for this. And it's, of course, more of a do-it-yourself format. That's a key difference. It's kind of like do-it-yourself and you've got community access versus having a community access and having us handhold you through the whole process for 3 months, making sure it sticks, really getting that tight accountability and all the rest. And then that might not be as relevant, for example, for people who already have their fitness completely dialed and already have a routine they have been sticking to for some time, and it's working for them, and they're in the gym every morning, and like they don't burn out. Like these, if it's really not if it's something that's already been a huge part of your life forever and maybe hasn't taken that much of a step back since you've begun building your business, then it's maybe something that's less for you. But that's more for the people who maybe had their fitness dialed for a long period of time, and then they began their business and their fitness truly took a backseat. So they really weren't able to prioritize it as much. They've been less consistent. They've maybe put on some weight. Maybe they've lost some muscle mass. They've not been able to really keep in those morning sessions, and they've been a bit more unstable in general when it comes to their ability to create consistency in their lives, but especially around their fitness. So really not burning out and feeling feeling quite confident with their routines, so to speak, and having clarity over that, because it is something that takes time to do, and it is truly a process. And how giving that structure and that accountability for that is extremely helpful, and that's really what we focus on, what we want to try to implement. So that is the first 2 tiers of our offer stack, and then the one above, which is sort of in the works, and this is something we've actually got our first one in April. So what comes next on the top tier of our offer stack is essentially the retreats, the founder retreats, which we're holding, which for us is a very logical move because we are in a wellness space. We're supporting founders on their fitness journeys, and having a wellness sort of top option is so exciting for us. Like, that's something I want to spend more time on. Ideally, I want to spend eventually a lot of my time hosting them, organizing them, because for me that's real, that's exciting. It cuts through the noise with all of this online digitization, everyone being chronically disconnected. I think hosting like a retreat will just cut right through the noise. It's a real experience. People are going to create meaningful memories, but also meaningful learnings, and it'll have a huge transformative impact, which is very, very, very hard to mimic with a purely digital presence. However, there is, of course, upside of having the reach of a digital presence, as we are already communicating and delivering with founders all over the world, which is a blessing of having a purely online focused offer. But I think the retreat is just a very nice option to have. So that would be our top offers. So the people, and this would be tailored, of course, for the people who are in that middle section, where they've maybe gone through the transformation, maybe they're continuing to go through it, and they want to really experience a shared journey with these other founders, maybe meet them in person, meet the people who've been a part of their cohort and a part of their journey in real life, go for a hike in the mountains for a week, really disconnect, get some time to truly reset and ground yourself, and also kind of reflect on the journey and progress you've made, and maybe take some time to plan the future, the next steps, and kind of enjoy the fruits of your labor, so to speak, but also just get a reminder of what this is all about, really being connected with yourself, with the other founders, and with your purpose. So that would be the purpose. That would be the purpose of the immersion, or the retreat. And yeah, that would be our top offer. So of course it would also be a higher ticket, or it would come at a higher price because we're organizing this intensive thing, and there's a lot of costs involved with that. And it's also more exclusive for the people who are truly invested in our journeys and are looking for that next step. So that's how I currently see our offer stack. And I mentioned we've already got one of these first events planned, these first immersions planned. And in our case, that immersion it's coming up in April already, which is in about 5 months really from now. And we're already buying tickets for this now. So it's basically, we've signed up for a marathon, which was actually a gift to my brother and co-founder. So we've been doing this for the past 2 years now, where for his birthday, I'll choose a marathon. So it's like a trip, and a marathon, like marathon tourism. So last year we did Rome, where we went there, ran the marathon in Rome with my brother and a friend of mine. And then we also got to see the city, do a bit of traveling, and it was really, really like a nice experience. And so I've gifted him for his birthday this year. We're going to go to Greece for this marathon, which is a trail marathon. So not one of the standard ones, but it's called the Hydra Trail Marathon. And it's on a small island, no cars, just like people on horseback, basically. Not much going on there. And it's just, you do a loop of the island, and it's essentially a marathon with a lot of elevation, and it's a trail marathon. So yeah, we'll be doing that. But this time we're going to turn it into more of a a retreat as kind of like a test and a way for us to really understand how we want to organize these immersions and how we want to, the feel we want to create, what kind of experiences we want to create. So in this case, it's a bit shorter. We'll be going there for 4 nights, and we've currently got about 10 people coming along, founders, some friends and family. So my brother, my cousin's coming as well. And they're all, of course, very into their fitness. They're all going to be running the marathon alongside us. And we've booked, we're in the process of booking a big villa, which can host plenty. So we're looking to be maybe 15 in total, 12 to 15. And a lot of them will be founders. So we'll have chances to really, maybe not as much co-working, but we're thinking of like how to plan this out. It'll probably be more tourism and getting a chance to connect with these other people and enjoy the nature. We'll be in a fairly remote location, so that's going to be quite nice. And then we'll maybe do like 1 night in Athens as well. But that's going to be a nice first test. We'll document that. We'll put a lot of content out for that as well, just to sort of reflect on it, document the whole thing, and also get to capture the energy of that trip, so we can kind of use that as reference for future activities and future immersions as well. So that's going to be exciting, and that's coming up quite soon. I'll share some more about that on my YouTube here over in December, and my Instagram as well, just for any founders that are maybe in my network already, or see it and do want to be part of it and feel like it aligns with them and they would love to join. It's still open, and we've got a few more spots, so definitely happy to speak to anyone about that as well. But yeah, so there's a lot on my mind right now, and that's some of the things, as I mentioned, the pitch deck and the offer stack, 2 things I'm going to be working on today for the whole day. Those are my main projects for today, which is quite exciting. I've got a few calls later, but really I'm enjoying these live streams because it's a nice way for me to really document, like I mentioned, things, but also keep me accountable for these work sessions and have a really clear intention and focus on that and walk through that and document that. So that's quite exciting, really. And another topic which I wanted to discuss today, I'll bring it up now because it's on my mind. It's quite fresh, but I'm also happy. I'll probably explore it a bit later while the work session goes on. But I've been very on the line with content for a long time, and I understand it's extremely valuable, and you can really, a lot of businesses are becoming media companies now, that you're really dependent on it, so to speak, for reach, creating awareness, creating trust with customers, bringing them into your ecosystem, world building, branding, like all these things really can ride on the back of content. And of course, it's important also not to be limited by content and maybe own your audience via things like a mailing list or even having more in-person interactions where you really create sort of deeper connections beyond a social media platform. And I've been very slow at prioritizing this, to be transparent, because we've been working on the startup now for a couple of years, and content has always been sort of like in the loop, as in we know it's so important, we're trying to prioritize it, but it just always ends up coming in the back seat because we've been, for example, using cold outreach and existing network for lead generation. So we haven't actually truly generated leads from content, although with LinkedIn content, we have had some very positive interactions on the back of LinkedIn posts, and that has helped us a lot. But besides that, we haven't really prioritized it in a sense because we've been so focused on getting clarity over the value we want to provide, the structure of the offer, how do we want to deliver, the delivery process, and also the sales process, from like the sales call, the messaging, the copy, but not actually isolated to marketing or content, so to speak. And so it's, of course, a full-time job to really put out good content and make that consistent. And I'm aware of that, and it's hard for me to not be all or nothing, which is my main issue. If I get into content, I have a hard time doing some of it. For instance, if it's 1 YouTube video a week or if it's 1 LinkedIn post a week, I have a really hard time being consistent when it's just not the full thing, when I know there's more to be gained from it, because I want to crank it up to 100% and follow a content waterfall and do like a YouTube video, like 5 LinkedIn posts a week, Instagram reels, like everything. But of course, that's super time consuming and maybe not feasible with where I am right now. Maybe that's just the reality of my situation. And the same philosophy I apply for fitness, which is finding that sort of minimum effective dose, and then sticking to that. So sticking to a routine that is sustainable for you, that you can maintain over a long period of time. Maybe I do just need to apply that for content and just slowly ease into it, and then I can start ramping up volume over time, which makes a lot of sense. And that is part of my strategies for this week. Is I'm going to begin with written content purely, LinkedIn, Twitter. Maybe it's less exciting to some extent, but I do really enjoy writing. I want to write more and document more in that way. So I'll start doing that and aim to create a base of consistency with that, where I can then build on and do things like these live streams, for example. So that's kind of been my current perception of content and also my experience with it so far. It's been very hard to create that consistency with it, admittingly, because it's at the core, it's just not been a true priority for us, even though it is so important for brand building and awareness. And one thing which has kind of surprised me recently, or has been a bit of a thought that's made me reconsider how much time I invest into content, is seeing all of these big creators, which I've been following for such a long period of time and really respecting and using as role models for the style of content I want to put out and the quality of content. I'm seeing a lot of them begin to pivot away from short form content because of how cluttered it's getting with AI content. And it's a bit sad, because part of me is thinking, oh, I delayed it so long to the point where now it's not even a thing anymore. Like, it's going to become redundant before the time I even get to begin posting content properly. And part of me is a bit on the fence with, is it worth starting that? Is it not worth starting that? Because these big creators, Alex Hermosi and all these guys, they're all moving towards live streaming. They're all moving towards long form content, if they haven't already been doing that, and are truly prioritizing that for the reasons of really showing clear authenticity through the long form content, which is easier to portray, creating like a loyal following, so more trust. And to me, this makes a lot of sense, because especially if the foundation, one of our values really is sort of like simplicity, the idea of simplicity, the idea of going back to nature, the idea of disconnecting and grounding. We want the experience with our brand to feel like a breath of fresh air amongst the noise. We want it to feel like it's grounding you at every touch point of our business, from the marketing to the sales process, to the delivery, to the referral, to like everything, the community interactions. Everything should feel like a breath of fresh air and not spammy, not more digital clutter, noise. The mailing list shouldn't feel like a load of information just overwhelming you and overstimulating you. We really want to feel like it's prompting you to slow down, be mindful, come to peace with things. And in that sense, it's really just about avoiding those short form, high intensity bits of content. And that's why I've been very back and forth with that process. And at the moment, long form seems a lot more logical, which is also what prompted me to start these live streams as an experiment, because I think it's fun. I think there's a lot of exciting elements about it, like I mentioned earlier. And it's something which I'm curious to continue to test and continue to use as a form of documenting, as opposed to making a quick reel which captures your attention for a bit and then goes away. I'm just not sure if that has much of a future now with this AI content coming through, and with the amount of volume and I wouldn't say saturation, but just noise. And yeah, that's these are my thoughts at the moment. And for that reason, if I had to guess, I'm going to keep experimenting and keep reflecting on this week and the next. But if I had to guess, our content strategy will be somewhat akin to having written content, because I do enjoy writing, and I do think that it's a nice way to really get some strong takeaways without feeling overwhelmed by the visuals and all the noise around that. So LinkedIn and Twitter will probably be we'll have a presence there, and then potentially skipping the short form content altogether, and then going straight to YouTube long form videos. So sort of like these live streams, but just way more polished and way more sort of to the point, as well as some sort of vlog style videos on the YouTube as well. we've got a podcast, which is going to be a huge part of that. And then also these live streams. And the way I see the live streams is co-working sessions like this one, which I think is going to be valuable. I think it's exciting. I think it's something founders can benefit from value-wise, but also the concept of it is quite inviting in my mind. And it also goes very nicely with the idea of not adding noise, but just kind of chilled setting where you're maybe working, I'm working, you just put me on in the background, you get in tap, you can join in, you can ask some questions about certain processes that I'm working on. Maybe you're working on similar projects, maybe you have to in the future. And it's a nice kind of inviting, very casual setting to digest information, I think. And then also something I'm thinking of doing, because we're in a wellness space, which I think could be quite exciting too, is I would love to document my workouts more and my training styles, because I essentially train every day, from mobility to active recovery and all the rest. And of course I can't live stream my runs or whatever, but I think what could be good is the gym sessions, instead of recording them, because I do have a lot of B-roll, for example, for the gym sessions, and putting those into shorts, putting them into reels, putting them into well-polished YouTube videos. Just also from a time perspective, I believe live streaming could be a fun way to document it and still capture a lot of the essence of the workout, get the takeaways, and get that interactive element to it too, which I think could be quite powerful. So those are some things I'm thinking about at the moment, and what the content sort of ecosystem or content layout might start to look like over time, which I think makes sense, I think. And I think it's it creates a lot of freedom. And the only thing that's maybe I'm still debating about and having a hard time grasping fully is whether or not Instagram is essential to have a presence on. Of course, it's not strictly essential, but just if it's a nice, easy vehicle that will remain for creating quick brand awareness, getting a quick capture of your brand's energy, in essence, creating a bit more trust there, but also for personal branding, if it's going to be essential for the personal branding side of things and conveying aesthetics and so forth. I do enjoy curating, the idea of capturing nice pictures and curating them and documenting them. It's a nice way to go through memories, because I do enjoy going through the feed and looking at the memories, my own memories, for my own sake as well. So that's something I do enjoy. So it's sort of a question of whether or not that's essential or not. Also because of the downside of having to go on Instagram, having to use the app, check it, take the time to post on there, and then you're seeing everyone's stories, you're seeing all these other notifications, and I would happily delete the app. So yeah, that's sort of my current stance with content and so forth, and something I'll continue to explore throughout. Anyways, now that I've kind of covered a few different things, I'm just going to hop straight into it, and to continuing with my pitch deck. So I'm just opening up some tabs right now. I've also got a whiteboard behind me, which is quite nice. I'm going to use that right now, actually, just to map out, to get an overview of the essential things I want to include in the pitch deck, and also create a quick framework, because I've been a bit back and forth with how I structure this. And a philosophy I'm trying to hold in mind whilst working on this is that I want it to be at 70% of perfection, just because it can always be improved, and I don't need this to be perfect. I need it to be good. I need it to be quality, but there can be room for improvement, just because I don't want to spend forever on this either. I would like to ship it, get feedback on it. Really the same idea of the lean startup, being able to quickly get an MVP and just send it off, get feedback, iterate. That's how I like to operate with my projects as well. And especially with something like this is a perfect example. I made it way too many pages at the beginning. I didn't have a need for all these pages, so I've shortened it down to 10. And I'm going to see if I can make these 10 slides quite dense, quite well polished. And then if I need to add stuff over time, I can take it from there. Yeah, so I'm building it out on Canva. I'll give a quick outline of some things I want to include in the pitch deck. I'm just going to share my screen quickly. This guy. I've also tested or played around a bit with a a software called Skywork AI, which is seemingly the best AI tool for building slides at the moment, building pitch decks and slide decks. And I've got the free version, so I'm not sure how limited that is, but I've put in a prompt which essentially goes through, it had access to my whole pitch deck. So what I've already built out so far with the slides and the information I had, I put in my offer, I put in information on my ICP, information on my vision, all my documentation for the business, put that into Skywork AI, and then it built me out a slide deck, which is pretty visually sharp. But the thing is, which is where they get you as well, is that it's quite hard to edit afterwards. And if it's not perfect, which is kind of the problem in my eyes with all of the AI designer, the AI design tools right now, is that they can't quite get it perfect. And because of that, and if you have a specific need or vision in mind, it's going to be so hard to make those tweaks and adjustments where it's better and easier still to build it out from scratch and to have the AI tool kind of serve as a layer on top to really, like, for example, Photoshop's AI tool, extremely useful. And right now it's super powerful. But if you have to create specific visualizations purely with Midjourney or Grok image or whatever it might be, then it still feels a bit limited just because it's very hard to get exactly what you need. And yesterday, for example, I was making visualizations for our jerseys for our racer tops for the marathon that we're going to be doing in Greece. I want to get jerseys for the whole team and print them off over December break, so I can bring some kits for the team, so we have like matching merch and so forth for the race day. And I had an idea in mind, which I thought, based on what I've seen from AI visualizations, I thought it shouldn't be too hard to create a visualization for this, because I basically provided a top which I liked, and I just wanted to replace the logo with our logo, essentially, just to see what that would look like. And for some reason, I could not make that happen. It was so difficult, and I would get these hyper realistic images of some random person modeling the top, but the top was nothing like what I prompted, and I just could not get it to work. And in a case like that, Photoshop would have just done the job. So I don't know it's hard to say how perfect it is at the moment and how much you can rely on it. Anyways, so at the moment, my pitch deck has the title page, as you see. And then I've got the problem page, the solution page, the market, or the I guess the market, which is like burnout, founder burnout, like the main kind of issue, the root cause, right? And then I've got the program, so the core offer, you could say. And then I've got a bit about the team. I've got results, so the actual results we're aiming to create. Then I've got something a bit more zoomed out about the overall direction and the vision. So this could be, for instance, a roadmap, a good page to put the roadmap diagram on. And then why now? So urgency, what are the repercussions of not addressing this into the future? So like the threats. And then sort of an invitation at the end. Yeah. So very rough still. I've just got a rough idea of the structure and the outline, but I'm going to turn to the whiteboard now. There we go. Just making sure that the angle is good enough to capture that and see that. Yes. Okay, that should be good enough. So I'm just gonna, now that I've got an idea of the 10 slides, I know what each slide represents. Before I hop back into, I've got a folder on Grok AI, which I've been using now over ChatGPT actually. But I've got a folder there where I'm feeding in more information about the pitch to really build up an understanding of how the content should look and what the structure should be. So I'm going to be using that in a bit and going back onto Canva to really fine tune the details and get each slide where I want it to be bit by bit. But until I do that, I'm just going to go back to the whiteboard and make sure that I'm covering all the key things I want to cover from a pitch deck, and making sure that I'm capturing all the information, but I'm also following the framework I want to respect, and I'm not neglecting anything, and I'm prioritizing everything equally. At the moment, I'm drinking these high energy drinks, which is a Danish company, quite a small company. You can only buy them in some like boutique supermarkets in Copenhagen, but I always go out my way to find these because I tried one. I don't drink much caffeine in general. I don't drink energy drinks, but I've got a project which I'm technically co-founding, and they just got funding in the beginning of 2025, actually. So late 2024. They got funding, and it's something I've been working on behind the scenes for a bit, but I'm going to be building publicly as well in the future, even though I have a smaller part there than the foundation. It's essentially an energy drink company, which I'll talk about more later. But this drink is one I quite like, and the product is really nice in terms of flavor profile, but also the ingredients are super clean, like really high quality ingredients. The price is it's not cheap. It's definitely a premium energy drink. But I mean, the caffeine comes from guarana. You've got coconut water in there, ginseng, like a bunch of like good clean ingredients, and it tastes great. But the energy you get from this is like, I like to drink mate, like yerba mate, and the caffeine rush from that is so different to coffee. It feels more stable. You get less jitters. You don't get as much anxiety. But the actual energy boost feels way more almost like euphoric. Like it's really like this positive kind of boost of energy, which I feel like caffeine makes you very alert and focused, and also just like almost like too dull where it's hard to wind down. But this is just like a general like uplift, and yeah, I really like it. So I've been also like kind of testing different products on the market because of the project I'm involved with. So this is definitely the one I've liked the most out of the products I've tested. So yeah, I'm just drinking this one right now. I bought a couple actually. Anyway, I'm just gonna start brainstorming now for the pitch deck. Let me just move this up so it's a better angle. Maybe if I go on this side. I'm not sure how this angle is going to turn out. It's a bit hard to tell, but I think it looks decent enough. All right, I'm just going to write. Here, let me just bring it a bit closer, maybe. So there's more of the frame on the actual whiteboard. That should do. I will get a whiteboard in my apartment, but I'm actively relocating. I'm leaving Copenhagen and I'm moving to Austin, so I decided I wouldn't buy one before I leave, but I will get one in my new place 100%, so I can do these kind of live streams from my own house. All right, so I'm just going to put the TF for the foundation. TF pitch deck. Okay, my handwriting's pretty atrocious as well, but this will do. I'm just going to speak it out loud so you guys can understand what I'm saying as well. So what are some things I want to cover in a pitch deck? What are some elements that have to be included? So we've got 10 slides. We want to create the first thing that comes to mind after if we start with the title page and just discuss what do we want to convey in terms of the feel first, because that's the first impression you get. So strong first impression. I'll write this down. I'll stand on this side. So strong first impression. Yeah, so we want a strong first impression. We want a clear understanding of the visual brand identity, which is something that's communicated on the first slide already. So I'll write that down now. clear visual brand identity. What do I mean by that is having clarity on the color palettes, on the type of imagery and the visuals we want to be associated with, whether it's clean, minimal, sleek sort of graphic designs, or whether it's, for example, in our case, nature. So natural landscapes, beautiful mountains, picturesque scenery, green, just feeling very calming and zen, which is really quite a popular visual style when it comes to the wellness space. But we want to merge that with this kind of founder sleekness, which is a very nice sort of clean combo, in my opinion. So I'll write that down here. I'll put green, nature, and sleek. Sleek. Already saying this is making me reconsider how the slides look at the moment and some of the things that I would reshift and restructure on the slide layout just to make it cleaner and to really give off that, to make that impression way, way clearer than it is. So moving on, the next thing after this is I want to create a very vivid understanding of the pain. The pain should be so clear and evident as to what it is, why it's relevant, what does that feel like, who suffers from it, like really clearly painting the picture when it comes to the pain. So I'll put vivid pain. And something that really, I'm really grateful that I've been able to work in sales and that I've got a background in kind of commercial and sales, because it informs you so much about business in general beyond purely the commercial or purely like the sales process. For example, in sales, one of the main things you learn is how important it is to identify the pain as fast as possible, whether it's a cold call, whether it's a discovery call, just really highlighting pain, like uncovering the pain and understanding it more than a customer does. And that's something that right now, just thinking about that, it's reminding me of how important that is to include even in things like the pitch deck, in when communicating the offer, whatever it might be, just having a deep understanding of the pain is going to be relevant throughout your business, and every touch point where you can communicate it as effectively as you would in a sales process, it's going to make it so much easier for people who do interact with your business, if they are your ideal customer, even for them just seeing the pitch deck, being aware of what problem you solve and being aware of how you solve that problem, what value you provide. It's going to just keep them informed and make it a lot easier for them to sort of move through your funnels and understand you in the same way from every touch point. So even if they just see the pitch deck, they still get that same deep understanding that they will on a sales, like in a sales process or in a sales call, for example. So I really like that. And I think that's such a key factor when it comes to this pitch deck. Vivid pain. And then the opposite is true for the solution. So I'm trying to think of a better way to paint that, to kind of explain this, because for the pain, it's important that it's super vivid, but for the solution, I'm not sure how much detail, to be completely transparent, I'm not sure how much detail I should go into on the actual pitch deck itself in terms of talking about the solution, because I also want to have a separate offer stack that goes a bit more into detail about the offer and the value we provide on that side. And those are kind of two different things. So I'm not sure if it's more sort of the philosophical approach, so our solution in terms of where we position ourselves and what our approach is, which I think is potentially more fit for the pitch deck, more than if we were talking about the actual structure of the offer, for example. So when it comes to solution on a pitch deck, I'm thinking more positioning and approach. So I'm going to write that down. Solution, positioning, and approach. Yeah, I like that. And then after this, something else we want to include is, or something else that's quite important for the pitch deck to serve is that it creates a clear understanding of the overall market, or where exactly we're operating within, so that there is like an existing issue at hand. So we've mentioned, for instance, the pain and how that manifests itself on an individual level, but just zooming out a bit and showing, okay, what does this mean in terms of like how would you refer to that larger market that you're targeting and that larger issue at scale? And in my eyes, that's kind of addressing the fact that there is demand, there is a market, and also why it's relevant. So why is this relevant on the bigger picture, and why is this not a small petty problem that is just affecting some individuals and is maybe not so relevant to everyone? So for that, I would say clear market, clear demand. Yeah, clear market and need. Clear market, quite important. I'm just going to look at my Canvas slide quickly to see what else I've already mapped out to include. The founder reset. Okay, that comes right after. Yeah, I guess discussing the offer. I think the offer, because we mentioned the approach. I think the offer, just to give a bit of insight, the core offer specifically, just to give them a bit of insights into how we've structured this as kind of business model, how to write business model. Business model. Yeah, just so that we can paint the picture there. And then we've got the team, which is maybe not so relevant, but I think background is quite good. Like, because part of it is, I'll write this on the side actually. I'll put this as a little tag on the side, but storytelling, like words that come to mind that I want to convey within the pitch deck is like storytelling. Storytelling is going to be super important for this, in my eyes. Yeah, I want there to be a storytelling element. I want there to be a clear narrative as well. Narrative, storytelling. I want it to be I want there to be a clear conclusion as well, like a closing kind of invitation. And then I've also written, I want it to be simple as well. It should be simple all the way through. I don't want it to feel complicated. I don't want it to feel clunky. I want you to, even if you don't hear what I'm saying, for instance, if I just sent the pitch deck to someone who knew nothing about me, nothing about the business, I want them to be able to flick through it and get a pretty comfortable feel that they know what it's about, who it's for, what we do, the purpose, and that it's relevant. Like these things should be so easy to explain and such easy takeaways. It shouldn't be blurry. No part should be blurry. So simplicity is really key for this. Those are really most of the core things for sure. Those are most of the key takeaways. I'm trying to think what else. I think background, which goes closely with storytelling as well. They would need to understand the background a little bit just to be able to follow along and make sense of why we founded this. Why is it me and my co-founder? What role do we play, for example? Just flicking through my slide deck right now. What else? Transformation, so evidence of the solution working. Or I'm going to write trust and proof to create. So if we send it to a collaborator, we send it to a partner, we send it to a client who's maybe on the fence and wants some more documentation, they've got trust and proof just from looking at the pitch deck. And this is quite a fortunate position we're in because we've already got some interactions. We've had clients. So it's a nice way for us to use what we've already got into the pitch deck to create a stronger case. What else? I'm just flicking through. I think roadmap is quite nice because that goes hand in hand with the vision as well. So roadmap / vision. Roadmap / vision. I justified putting a slide about the movement, but in truth, I don't know what value this would add right now. I'm having a hard time remembering why I included that. Because I think that talking about the market, I guess it is different, because if talking about the market addresses the issue at scale and why it's affecting people, why it's affecting organizations and people's day-to-day lives and how it's becoming an increasingly larger issue in the future, I think the movement can be a nice slide to depict the flip side of that. What could this look like if all of these founders started building in this more sustainable way? What new future would that look like, and what would that feel like? So I actually do like that. It's sort of like, I guess, like projecting the dream state or the dream outcome when it comes to a sales process, for example. Okay, what else? We've got urgency. I think that is important as well. Urgency, and then we've got an invitation at the end, which I think I've already written. I actually haven't written it down. I'm just going to write invitation at the end. Okay, now we've got, so just to recap quickly, we've got a strong first impression, of course, clear visual brand identity. So for us, it's nature, the greenness, a sleek design for founders, just very kind of simple. We've got vivid pain painted out. We've got really presenting the positioning and our approach as the solution. We've got a clarity over the market and what it currently stands at in terms of demand and why there's a need for it. The business model is simple. So for us, showing the model, showing what it's priced maybe and how it's broken down. We've got the background. So me and a founder, a bit more about the story, trust and proof, some evidence of the results we've generated, and why we've built a bit of credibility, or why we have confidence that we can deliver on these solutions and deliver to our clients. Roadmap and vision. So what does the future look like? What direction are we going in? The movement. So what is sort of the dream state of where we want, what we would do if we fulfilled the vision, we brought all these founders to a new way of building businesses, and burnout is no longer an issue, and so forth. Like I mentioned, the movement, urgency as well. So why is this an issue now? Why is it something we need to tackle now? Just reiterating the urgency. And then an invitation at the end. I'm not so sure about the structure. I'm going to reflect on that a bit now and go through some of the notes I've made, and make sure that I've included things like storytelling, narrative, like a closing invitation, and simplicity throughout the thing, so you can really have an easy takeaway and have a good grasp on everything. So now that I've gone through that, I'm just going to turn away from the whiteboard, and I'll be continuing to work on the pitch deck. So I'm just going to hop through some slides. I'm going to keep working on it now and brainstorming with these notes in mind. And I'm going to finish this today, so I'm excited about it. I look forward to taking this off. It's been some time since I've started this, so it'll be nice to finalize it. I've got a slide open right now for Grok AI, and this is where I'll be sharing my process on building out the pitch deck, more or less. I'll share my screen now so you can see that as well. Okay, so you can see my screen now. So I'm going to take everything we've said and I'm going to make sure that it's aligned with what we have. Okay, so I've built like a strategist for the foundation, which has all of our documentation, so they understand the business and they can basically help us position ourselves quite nicely backed on very evidence-backed decisions, which is nice. So I'm going to feed it the pitch deck. Sorry, I'm just grabbing this. Yeah, I'm just attaching the pitch deck for the file. Okay. I'm just going to create another prompt now from scratch because I'm not too happy with the current structure of it. So I'm just going to make sure that it's aligned. Help me create the perfect 10 slide pitch deck for the foundation with it should have a clear narrative, storytelling elements, hold simplicity at its core, and then I'll put in brackets, people can flick through it and understand who it's for, what's the issue, what we do, and how we do it. It should have a closing invitation. This should be a document we can share with collaborators, investors, or potential clients. The visual style should be aligned with our should be clearly demonstrating our visual brand identity. It should create a strong first impression. I'm just copying the notes at the moment from the whiteboard, making sure it's including all of the elements we've already discussed. There should be a clear and vivid pain depicted. a nice presentation of our solution, positioning and approach, a clear market, understanding of our business model, should be demonstrated, a bit about our background, trust / proof, a roadmap / vision, the movement / the movement, I guess. Yep, urgency and an invitation. So our visual style is minimal and sleek with feels of nature and Zen. Think mountain ranges, green woods, peaceful settings. Our color palette is, I'm just going to put up my color palette quickly. Color, because we recently changed it actually. Branding, okay, I've got it. Our branding pivot recently in the past month essentially, so that has changed a little bit. Copy link to the palette, a really nice Figma color palette, which I think aligns quite nicely. So I'm going to use that as our new color palette for the time being, which is more sort of earthy colors, which I resonate with a lot more than the more sleek digital look we had before. So our color palettes are this, and our font of choice is Lato. What else about visual style? That's a lot. That's most of our visual identity, really. We like to use simple, what would I call those? Line diagrams. I'll put think matte gray style to depict ideas and concepts. What else? I'm going to just attach what I've got so far. I've attached the current progress we've made with the pitch deck as a PDF from Canva. So I'm just attaching that pitch deck. Maybe I haven't saved it yet. I thought I did. For the foundation pitch deck. Oh, there it is. Got it. Nice. Yeah, so I'm just attaching that now. And then final prompt, help me or as a world-class graphic designer with extensive experience in building out award-winning pitch decks for wellness startups and having a deep knowledge on storytelling. Business acumen and human nature. Help me create a pitch deck. Help me create a pitch deck so that I can copy it out to Canva. All right, this is going to give us a foundation for the structure of the pitch deck in terms of the slide order and the slide content. And then I can dive deep into each slide one by one. Once I've got an overall picture based on all of the information and the frameworks we've kind of outlined already. And then this can help dive deep into each page to make sure that each slide is perfect, and we can start to fine tune the content a bit more and get a bit creative with the visuals. But this is going to be nice just to make sure I'm covering everything and I'm not neglecting any key information. I'm just going to close my Skywork AI tab because I don't think it's a tool that's going to help us at this point in time. I'm curious to see what that's. I know it's not going to be long until those tools do become extremely useful, and I'm sure they already are, some of them. But I've just not been able, at least with the free package for Skywork AI, I haven't quite been able to use it to the extent where I can actually keep the pitch deck it creates and edit it and so forth. It's a bit too far from what I'd like it to be. Anyways, okay, we've got this prompt. That was quick. Okay, so it's giving us a quick breakdown. I guess that is the other thing. I need why I'm revisiting this and I'm changing and updating my slides. I did have too much content on each slide, and I guess it was not simple and digestible in that sense, where I was trying to make it too dense and wasn't putting the bare essential on each page. I was really trying to fill it up with as much as I could, which is obviously not the way to go. Okay. So I'm just flicking through this. Let's see. Okay, so title 1, yes. 2, the problem, the founder's paradox. Yeah. Very simple, very clean. That's the thing. I really don't need to overcomplicate this. In my mind, I need to give every bit of insight we've gathered over the past 2 years and include on a pitch deck, but that's really not the case. It is just a sort of diluting the main key takeaways that are just enough to get an understanding of what you do. And then maybe later I can make a more in-depth pitch deck, but for the time being, it's just not. It's not exactly what I need. Health is leverage, the solution. Yeah, structure, energy, accountability. Yes. I like that. Clean, simple. The founder system gap, the market. I don't know about that title though. That sounds a bit weird. The founder system gap. What did I call it on this? I'm just looking at, yeah, I don't know. I don't like that title. I'm gonna have to reshift that. But for now, this is good, just to get an idea still of how each page should be structured, and also how much content is really needed per page, because these are the key takeaways really, which I still of course need to tweak, but it gives me an idea of how much information I should be looking to put on each page. The founder reset, yep, definitely. And then built by founders for founders, I really like that as a title. And then it gives a bit about the background. Yes, slide 7, tangible transformation, trust and credibility. Can use some cases here, some testimonials. Slide 8, why now, plus our North Star. So I'm trying to think, why now? That is the urgency page, but I'm trying to think, what's it say? Why now, AI? Okay. So we had the pain, and then we had the market. So I'm trying to think what the purpose of this is. I guess this is even bigger picture. Left half. Okay, I guess, yeah, with the North Star, that's kind of the vision page. Roadmap and vision. The thing is, this isn't really the roadmap. This could this be the roadmap page? I'm trying to figure out quickly. We do have roadmap and vision together. Why now and North Star. Yeah, I'm just thinking if that would be too dense to also include a roadmap diagram along the bottom of that. Maybe it's a bit too much. And then we've got the infrastructure, which is our offer stack. Yeah. Okay, so that's maybe the business model, and then the other one is just breaking down the core offer. Yeah, I don't think it's a bad idea. I think it would be nice to have a brief overview of all of our offers. I think that should be in the pitch deck. And then I'm going to make an adjacent document to this, which is the offer stack in detail, and that'll be a breakdown. It'll be like I guess the same visual as the pitch deck, where we've got the 3 offers on one slide, and then I'll have slides under breaking down each offer in more detail, and yeah, writing those out fully in terms of what we will deliver for each one. And we've got slide 10, which is the invitation / movement, which I like. Okay, I'm trying to think what's missing. The only thing I can think that's missing is maybe like a roadmap, but I think I can include that when it comes to this slide here, slide 8. Urgency, invitation, movement, trust, and proof. Yes, yes. Background, solution. Yeah. Yeah, I think that's it in terms of the structure and how much content or how much information we need. I'm just going to update my slides now and tweak them to this. I'm just posting my tech stack in Grok AI, Canva so far, Figma for the color palette, Canva, Figma, Grok AI. We're not using Skywork AI, but Notion as well for saving my branding board. That's it, really. I can't think of anything else we're using at the moment. That's it. Appreciate you, trending chart. Yeah, I'm curious to hear if the people who are following are founders or who this comes to, because I'm really curious as to what people end up interacting or what people does this video end up reaching. And maybe that's something I need to look more into in terms of, I don't know, using hashtags or specific keywords to make sure that it does reach founders who are, interested in these kind of co-working sessions where we can drift ideas on these things and create more of a collaborative, interactive environment. Is this Grok? Yeah, we're using Grok. Yeah, I switched from ChatGPT to Grok AI, and I haven't made a final decision on which one I prefer or why, or which one I'll stick to long term. But the reason I switched was I was paying for ChatGPT, and the paid plan is brilliant. It's really good. But I'd heard some good things about Grok, just in terms of how quickly it was growing and how much better it was getting. Like its rate of progress was a bit faster than GPT, just in a sense that it was able to catch up quite quickly as an LLM. And I started using it, and it's free. I'm using the free plan, and it's honestly, the free plan on Grok feels as good to me, based on what I've used for now, like as good as ChatGPT's paid plan. Not in terms of image gen. The image gen is a bit worse, I would say, for now. Not in terms of quality, but just precision of what it's able to create based on your prompts. It's very hard to get what I'm looking for, but I don't use that too often either. So as far as I've used it, it's been honestly like matching my needs for ChatGPT, and it's free. So I basically transitioned over to Grok, and I stopped paying for OpenAI at the moment. Maybe I'll move back later, I don't know. But for the time being, it's honestly doing exactly, from what I understand and from what I see, it's only going to get better. And it's sort of me just making a bet on Grok that it's going to outperform OpenAI in the near future. So maybe I'm wrong, but I'm happy to make that bet now and give it a try anyways, because it's doing a job and it's free. So for me, it makes sense. The only thing that's less ideal is that I still have my OpenAI account, and I do use some Zapier automations that rely on OpenAI's APIs and integrations, which I haven't actually tried to Grok, but I've got a feeling that it's more limited in that sense. But it's not been it's not been a bottleneck per se. So definitely happy to keep giving it a try and keep using it. Okay. I might take a break quickly and use the restroom, and then I'm going to come back and start putting these out on slides and start mapping out the slides on Canvas. So moving my screen share over to Canva. I'm just going to put it in the chat quickly. Okie dokie. I'll just keep sharing my screen, but I'll just head off now for a little bit. Okay. I'm just trying to set up I'm just trying to quickly set up a break screen, because I've not really done these live streams too much. It's only my third one, I believe. So I'm trying to create a quick overlay so I can put that on the screen when I do walk away for a break, so it's a bit clearer. but I'm just trying to see where. I'm just trying to sort it out now. Okay, I might just give up on this because I've just spent 5 minutes doing this. Let me. Yeah, okay, maybe it's something I have to do at a different time. I'm not sure. Anyway, I'll do that for the next live stream. I'll make sure to have a break screen so it pauses and is actually a proper countdown instead of me texting the chat. But for the time being, I will just text that now and head off for a break quickly, just to come back and do this slide deck on Canva instead of outlining it on Grok. Because, yeah, I think it's good to get the outline, to get the structure, to get each heading, and from there we can actually hop over to Canva. So yeah, I'll just write that now. I'll remove that last message. Taking 10-minute break now. Hopping straight. Hopping straight onto Canva afterwards. Yes. All right. Be right back. I'll just mute as well.